Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out on another walk, and this time, the rain, the drizzle, and the darkness of winter has gone, and I'm climbing. The temperature has dropped, so it's a lot colder again. It's January. It's the 15th as I record this of January, and I'm climbing up a hill on the South Downs Way. It is one of the local parts of the South Downs Way to me, near Worthing, where I live in West Sussex, and it's on the west side of the A24 where I park my van just to get out of Worthing, about 2.5 miles, maybe 3, if that, and we'll start to see behind us the hills over which Sisbury and Chantonbury are, and then this heading over the South Downs towards, well, we'll sort of, if we kept going, we'd pass Harrow Hill, Black Patch Hill on the way to Amberley, and then Bury and beyond, I suppose. But it's just lovely to get out into the country again. I've walked this track many times, and I've actually made a couple of videos along this route in the past on here, but hadn't done it for a while. And also, of course, there's new people joining the subscribers, a list of subscribers, and of course on my Facebook channel, so often some of the older videos don't get looked at, so it's quite nice to actually have an excuse really to come to somewhere that's a little bit more local. And of course, during this lockdown fiasco, we have to stay relatively local, although we don't really know what local means, do we? There's no legal definition. But that said, it's always nice to come up here. It's part of the South Downs Way, as I say, so the great thing about it being on the South Downs is, even though we've had all this rain, and I've got a couple of other walks all lined up, but in the Weald, where the rain is just settled on the clay, and so it would be boggy. Up here, of course, you've got the porous chalk, always an advantage. If you want to go for a walk, get out on porous chalk if it's been raining recently, and fortunately it would have just all sunk through, which is great. There's a field of horses just there. In the past I've come up here, it's been a field of sheep. Nice to see a bit of variety going on. I have to say, my fingertips are... I got my gloves on, but my fingertips are pretty cold again. This walk takes you past... I think this was a practice bunker, pillbox during the Second World War. I've been inside it before in another video. If I can remember which video it was, I'll link to it. It's covered in iron, and I think it was supposed to be a German style of pillbox that the Canadian forces that were based here were aiming at. I think that's the principle of it. It's still here in the landscape. Just so nice to escape though from the four walls after all that rain. Even if it's just a simple local walk, it's just so nice to get up and get some of that fresh air from the downs. In recent videos I've been talking about the joy of walking, and also whether one likes to live in the country or the town, and I have to say, just living at least close to the country to get out and get away from the perpetual noise and pollution of traffic is just a bonus. It really is. Well, there it is, the pillbox I was talking about. It's now been fenced off a little better than it was before, and actually I noticed that here there's a gate and it's been locked. Up until fairly recently, I know because I've been in there, you could just wander off the path and get to it, but you can't now. I guess that's probably good in the long run because it's preserving it, because no doubt you'd get vandals in, but of course anybody who wants to get in there can easily just leap over the gate. You know, you just hope you don't get caught by the farmer, I guess. But I guess also it just deters people from speculatively going. It reduces the amount of people that will go in. It's one of our monuments. I mean, I know it's only 80 years ago that the Second World War took place. 81 years ago, the Battle of Britain reigned over these hills that up above me, Spitfires were fighting off the Messerschmitts, as well as trying to deter and get rid of the bombers. Right above these skies and above this landscape here in the southeast, an incredible and important part of our history. One I wanted actually to talk about much more last year, but COVID came along and sort of really put a kibosh on that. I don't know whether we're going to get a chance this year. I'd like to study more about the Battle of Britain. It's such an important part of our heritage, particularly when you think how the plucky Englishmen, plucky Great Britainer, I suppose I should say, rallied together. I think more so, of course, than this current crisis where we seem to be, some of us at odds with the government, and maybe a lot of us at odds with each other. When bombs were raining down above our heads, we knew who the enemy was. I think, although this COVID situation has been likened to the Second World War, I think that analogy is very much mistaken. There is some sun. The sun is trying to get over the hill behind me, which is lovely to see. I'm probably not going to go very far today. It is quite bitterly cold. The wind is getting up a bit. My fingers are cold yet again. But let's hope we have a bit of spell of sunnier weather. It's also quite misty, but definitely worth getting out, definitely. Well, it's certainly bracing and blows the cobwebs out of your head coming out here. I can feel the cold on my cheeks. I know people will say you should be wearing a hat. I've been reading this remarkable book. I forget the main author's name, but he goes under the pseudonym of Romani, and he was on the BBC for a while in the 1930s, I believe. And part of the radio series was that he would take his fellow countrymen. These were children. It was a children's series, and he would take these children out into the country on walks, similar to what I do, I suppose. And he would point out all the different bits of nature as they went, from the birds, the mammals, different plants, and he was sort of bringing nature to the listener, who would be listening in towns and villages back then, because more and more people had taken themselves into towns to find work. There had been a huge amount of movement from the countryside into away from villages into towns and cities, and so it was a way of keeping children connected. I think that's so important. It's interesting to note that I was reading about him, and actually they didn't go physically out. This was a bit of fiction, really. They were in the studio, in the way that the Archers on BBC Radio 4 are not actually out on a farm. It's all in the studio. But they release books, and that's the point I was getting to, really. And these books are so charming. They're so beautifully written for children and very educational. The one I'm reading at the moment talks about the relationship between this young boy Romani, who is this traveller guy who lives in a Vado, which is a gypsy caravan. And his relationship with this boy, you couldn't do it now, of course, a man and a boy in a book, it would be seen to be very suspect, of course. But they are watching a barn owl, and they talk about the barn owl, the cycle where he gets his mate, and then the little barn owl fledglings, and the whole nesting process, and the types of things that the barn owl eats. And when you talk about it like this, I mean, most people, have such a remote connection with nature, they don't think it's terribly important. But I just found it a brilliant way, even though it was written for children. Children these days probably wouldn't read it, it's a bit old-fashioned. I just found it really, really charming. And so when I've come on my walk this morning, I was reminded, really, hearing a little bit of the bird song, looking at the farmer's fields, of this guy Romani who was writing. So thanks very much to Woody Jenny, who'd sent me that book, who runs her own YouTube channel, I believe. Thank you so much for sending that, because I'm really enjoying it. Right, I'm not going to go much further really, because it is a bit bitterly cold. I'm just going to go up to the top a bit more, see what views we have, but there isn't any, because the mist is still rolling in. You do get the impression, walking up here, of not so much being on the South Downs, but perhaps crossing some moorland where, Dartmoor or somewhere like that, where the mists roll in and it's all a little bit creepy and spooky, and you don't know who's going to suddenly arrive out of the murk. As I say, I'm not going to go far today. The main point was just to get out, really. Just to get out into the countryside, bit of fresh air, enjoy the solitude for a few moments. I have a busy day anyway. I've got my reading show at Listen with Vobes, which is a YouTube channel where I'm reading old-fashioned books to the audience live. And of course I've got the Vobe show in the evening, and I've got to edit this together and get it ready for the morrow, which is the day you're now looking at it, or some future date. But yeah, I love it. I did actually see, I don't know if you can make out some trees over there, I did just see a runner came from somewhere in a valley, and then he's just run up there and over the hill, and of course if he carries on down he'll get down into Sullington, I think, and then, or potentially Storrington. So, and I've seen bicycle hooves, that's a good one, horses' hooves and bicycle tracks. I think the brain is freezing now. Of course that may not have been today, but it is normally it's a very busy route. And you come up here on a weekend, on a sunny day, people are enjoying the South Downs Way. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to do today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I will be out and about again if we get more sunshine. The sun, unfortunately, at this time of year is just so low. It doesn't sort of come up, and now I feel like the cloud cover is just covering me totally. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe, and give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed any of this nonsense, and I will endeavour to get out and make more. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.